Salut Kyle MacLachlan, on va rembobiner ta carrière de 2024 à 1984.
Reminder.
2024.
Here we are. Fallout last night received the Icon Award from the Cannes Series Festival. Very special moment, made even more special because of the greeting from David Lynch shown to me just before I went to the stage. David and I, of course, have a very long relationship and a deep friendship, and it meant a lot to see him. I knew very little about Fallout other than just it was a video game that exists, and I was like, okay. Dove into research. I attempted to play the game. That was not very successful, but I appreciate the universe so much, and I thought it really made sense as we're looking creatively at new places to draw our stories from, and why not use this world of a video game, which is very complex, very, very well established, and to lay our story within that world made complete sense to me.
2010.
How I Met Your Mother. How could I forget? I had never done a half hour before. And they came to me and said, we'd like you to come and play this role of the captain, which I immediately was excited about. I love that kind of slightly eccentric, a little over the top, but real character. But I was concerned about, I didn't know this world of half hour until I got there and I realized, oh, this is like stage on a camera. So because every set is kind of like a proscenium stage, like what you would do in a theater. And I was like, oh, okay, good. So that's fine. And then all you had to do was just kind of a movement within that so that the cameras that are operating know what's happening. The most interesting to me actually was the sound, because instead of wearing a mic or boom, we were boomed, but from the very back with these long arms that would hang over, and the microphone would drop down from there. And I thought, oh, that's kind of interesting. I'd never seen that before. We didn't have an audience, which was different than some of the sitcoms that they do. But the crew was our audience. So at any given time, we had 25 people out there, all very much engaged with what we were doing and laughing and applauding and enjoying the show as if they were an audience. And that was very helpful.
2006.
The story on Desperate Housewives is, and they brought me in, I was cast. Initially, they weren't sure whether I was going to be working with Trey or not, because they sort of started in that realm, and then he immediately kind of veered away and said, no, I think he works best with Marcia Cross, which was great because Marcia Cross played Bree, of course, who I ended up with. Not Susan. But Marcia went to school at Juilliard, and I went to school at the University of Washington, and both schools had training programs that were made to really prepare the repertory actor. So we were going to the stage. And so Marcia had a real sense of that kind of, I don't know, whatever it is. You can handle text really, really well. So sometimes we would have scenes together where it was really quick banter and really well written, and we both just loved that. Orson was really fun to play. He meant well, but, I was actually brought in initially to be the murderer for that season. But early on, I went back to the creator, Mark Cherry, who had hired me, and I said, Mark, I'm having such a good time. I don't know. I know I'm supposed to end the season, but it'd be fun to stay on for a little longer. Do you think you could find a way with the writer's room? And he said, let me talk to them. And they came back and said, yeah, we have a way. I think we have a way through this, and we can keep you around a little bit longer. So I ended up being on the show for 6 years. So it was a good chunk of time and a lovely experience.
2000.
Trey was actually, there were Trey defenders and then Trey deniers. And I see both sides. And he did try, and he did try to do right by Charlotte in the end. But there were other things that were challenging for him to overcome.
1990.
So many things happened from that show. First and foremost, David Lynch came to television, which was very strange, unexpected. And he brought with him a sensibility that I think has impacted television even to today, and you can see his influence on shows, certainly shows I've done. I mean, I know Mark Cherry from Desperate Housewives said what an impact David had on him and his idea about creating the show Desperate Housewives, and many directors and producers have said that to me about David's influence on them. And it was a joy to return 25 years later, I guess. It was roughly, or 27 years later, in 2017, where we were able to David was pretty free to do whatever interpretation he wanted. So the show became a little more surreal and a little more challenging, I think. But I certainly had a great time. And I'm so actually appreciative that this is a role that I'll be remembered for, of course, because I like him. It would be different if I was remembered for a strange killer or something weird, right? But with Cooper, he means a lot of things to people, a lot of good things to people. He represents something positive. So I'm grateful for that.
1984.
I think the overwhelming experience I had when I went to see the new Dune for the first time was nostalgia. I didn't expect to have that kind of reaction. It filled me with a lot of sort of memories, not bittersweet necessarily, but just sort of fond memories, I guess. So there was a huge appreciation for the opportunity, which at the time I didn't really understand. I was going to New York, bound to do theater. Movies were not my thing. And this was the first role ever, first time in front of a camera ever, first film script ever. So there were a lot of firsts. And so looking back, I realized what an overwhelming, unexpected, powerful opportunity that was, experience that was. So the nostalgia definitely crept in. And of course, because the movie is based on the book and our movie was based on the book, there are similar scenes throughout with similar dialogue. So I found myself watching and remembering the experience I had going through that. And it was not unpleasant. It was actually sort of enjoyable.
Konbini!